Hi, my name is Jay. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning here at E2Language. In this podcast, I chat to Richelle Zakrzrewski and James Warwick from Pearson about Pearson's new global online test preparation platform, or what's called the GOTP, which is powered by E2Language. We talk about the crazy context from which this platform emerged, the 2020 COVID context, which has affected so many English language schools worldwide. We talk about GOTP's functions, its features, as well as the content for both students and teachers. And it really is a remarkable platform that we believe is going to transform the way schools prepare their students for high-stakes English language exams. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Richelle Zakrzrewski, joining from London. I've been with Pearson for almost 10 years. However, about 4 of that was in the US, and then I've mainly been based in higher education and joined the English assessment a couple of years ago. So while I don't have experience in teaching, I've been involved in education for about 10 years, and it's really great to see you both.
Thanks, Richelle.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm James Warwick. I am a former teacher and editor. I currently work in a capacity as a digital product manager for Pearson. I've been here for around 4 years, so less than Richelle, but equally it's dedicated. And in my current capacity, what I do is I take digital products and kind of conceptualize and then deliver them for you guys.
And I'm Jared Merlot, or my teaching name is Jay. And I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning at E2Language. E2Language is a test preparation website. We cover high-stakes English exams. And we're talking today about a product that we conceptualized and built, and Pearson will be rolling out globally for us.
So based on the kind of new market environment that we're seeing with the move online, what do you see as some of the kind of major trends and shifts in the industry in the next coming kind of 5 to 10 years?
I think everyone's talking about this as an accelerant with technology and a shift to online learning. I think that's spot on. We were moving very slowly into good online learning, teaching and learning. I mean, the universities are... I'm going to be critical here. They spent a lot of money on, certainly in Australia, they spent a lot of money on their campuses and on their buildings, and very little money went into, R&D, into quality online teaching and learning, and certainly very little into the products themselves. So I think this is, I love face-to-face learning. Like, when I did my master's degree, it was wonderful to ride my bike down to the university and sit in a classroom with students, etc. Except, like, a beautiful experience. But I actually believe that technology will actually improve learner outcomes if it's harnessed in the right way. And that could be done a lot through data collection and analysis, reporting on weak areas of language learning, for example, things that when you're in a classroom just get glossed over. It's almost impossible for a teacher to know the precise, vocabulary breadth of a student, for example. Whereas if the student's doing online activities, the computer can pick up that sort of data and feed it through to the teacher. So I think, or at least I hope, that this accelerant will push a lot more, R&D into good quality online teaching and learning, and it's not going to be considered this secondary thing that we have to just go to because of COVID or whatever. I hope it can actually come to the surface with showing its true potential. Yeah. What do you think? Do you think online learning's got great potential, or?
I mean, online is naturally one of the ways that we see things progressing, and everything's online. Primarily, I think there's a drive towards mobile. I know that we're talking here mainly around web applications. I think that mobile will become. We've already seen a huge growth in India, and Asia and South Africa and Zimbabwe, and in people using mobile a lot more for their day-to-day lives. I know that their internet connectivity may be an issue, but mobile is now in everyone's hands. So the faster we can reach them, and the faster we can get products to them that meet their need at the point of demand, the better placed we'll be as educators and as teachers. So I think, yeah, definitely online, but primarily mobile.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
I think having access to the online and definitely the mobile is extremely important, just because people's plans in some respects have been temporarily halted. So a lot of people have been aspiring to study abroad, to work in a different country for many years. I think these are long held passions. And I think the fact that they're still able to study online and practice and prepare, I think that allows everyone to kind of still hold on to those dreams, even if you have to set it aside for what may be a semester or a year or two. So I think that's really important. And I think that is something that might be able to give students, test takers, and teachers a lot of hope.
Yeah, no, you mentioned a good point actually around assessment and the growth in assessment. I think there are a lot of companies now who are releasing their own kind of English language assessments. I think there's a drive towards digital certification, badging, and language really being the key to then unlock further life goals, whether that's migration or study. And I think that will only be accelerated, in the coming 5 years. So yeah, that's kind of a trend that we're seeing.
Okay, so Jay, one question I have for you as someone who's still relatively new to this aspect of the industry, how did the relationship between E2 Language and Pearson come about?
Well, we were one of the first movers with PT academic preparation. We were one of the first websites to build an online course for that. Quite luckily, a lot of it was being run out of the Pearson offices here in Melbourne through Sasha Hampson. And so we developed a relationship around that. Pearson then kind of endorsed us as a trusted online preparation partner and put us on the website, and we've kept that relationship going. And then what happened was we moved away from, or I shouldn't say we moved away, we're running our B2C platform E2 Language, and then we really started thinking deeply about building infrastructure software for schools. And a platform we developed specifically could be used really, really well for language schools. And we had all the digital content, the test prep content for the various tests, not just PT Academic, but also IELTS Academic, IELTS General, OET and TOEFL, that we could put into this infrastructure software and then actually go and plug in schools, like digitize schools, and provide them with, in effect, what is a digital school. That concept was called E2 Classroom, and how we sort of developed it was we looked at what actually happens in a school or in a language school, and all of the different interactions between the different people. So you've got teachers, students, and administrators. And so we needed to build really 3 very different sort of logins for each of those, because they do very different things. And we looked at all the different workflows and the dynamics of what happens. So as an example, a student writes an essay in class, right, on a piece of paper and hands it to the teacher. The teacher looks at it, takes it home, marks it, brings it back the next day, hands it back to the student with red pen on it and a grade and some comments, etc. Student looks at it, reviews it, and probably pops it in the bin. But certainly that's what I used to do. And so what we had to do with the technology there was look at that whole workflow and that interaction and digitize it and create that, build that into the platform. So there's obviously a relationship there between the student writing the essay, submitting it through the platform, it gets received by the teacher who marks it, and the way that it's marked is very clever. It's done through sort of automated rubrics rather than just using a red pen. It's then sent back to the student for review, etc., and there's points collected, etc. So that's just sort of one example of one of the aspects of E2 Classroom. What we did is, after we sort of built this, we were really curious because we were super keen to go into India, which is our largest market, and test it. And what we also really wanted to test was the lesson plans. So we didn't want to just test student practice questions. because what we ultimately wanted to do was provide teachers with teaching materials as well. And so over the last several years, we've built a lot of teaching resources that our teachers use on E2 Language to deliver the live group classes and the tutorials, etc. And so we went into these one particular small school in a little part of Chennai in South India and tested this out. And I think that caught Pearson's attention because, I think we were brave enough to not just sort of build this stuff, but actually go and actually get it in front of students, use it with teachers, etc. And it worked really well. So that's how it sort of came about.
So you mentioned there were three kind of components to it. There was an admin side, a teacher side, and a student side, and they all do very different things. So how did you kind of conceptualize what needed to be included in each, and then what ended up actually being included in all of those three different user profiles that you ended up creating for GOTP?
Yeah. Well, for teachers, I sort of fantasized about what I would have wanted when I was an English teacher in the classroom, because to be honest, I had scraps of paper on my desk and nothing was organized. And, I had the pile of marking. I had another sort of pile of sort of scrappy old lesson plans, and none of it was organized.
Yeah, it's the life of a teacher.
Yeah, big time. So when we built the dashboard, we sort of thought, okay, well, what do teachers do? So right at the top of the dashboard, there's messages because you're going to be answering questions from students. To the right of that, you've got marking. You click a button, there's your list of, the oldest marking to the most recent marking. You click on it, you mark it. To the right of that, or below that, you've got your lesson plan. So you can walk into class 2 minutes before, click on IELTS Academic Listening Week 4, boom, up it pops. You can project it on the classroom wall or teach it via Zoom. It can be used for both. And other features that basically the core jobs that teachers do, we made digital. And then on the flip side, or connected to that, is the students. So what do students do? Well, they ask questions, so they can submit questions. They study practice questions. There might be a live class where you're teaching PT academic listening, and then they'll go and do some self-study, for example. Then they might actually book a one-on-one appointment with the teacher. So we built in the scheduling system as well. So we looked at, again, what students do and what they need. And then from the admin perspective, it gets quite complex in admin because we did a number of things. We looked at sort of student management, teacher management, school management, as in, the live class scheduling features, the timetabling, the authoring. So schools can author tools, or there's certainly an authoring tool built in there. There's transfer functions. So, for example, Pearson makes a new course, they can transfer it to schools, like sending an email. So there's no need for a textbook there. It's all digital courseware.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to pick up actually, which is I know we worked on the content together. So what is actually included, and what is the scope of the product, and how did we kind of come up with the durations that it's broken into? And can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so there's sort of a bit of a fallacy with online learning, which is that a platform should be student-centric, that, you're basically building a platform for a student, but students really lack motivation and autonomy. They really, just like in a classroom, they need to be driven by the expert, like the teacher who sets the homework, checks the homework, does all that sort of stuff. So we've got the self-study questions a lot, many hours of self-study, but they're really driven off the back of these digital lessons that the teacher will be teaching. And really the core of the platform, if you like, and this is the same on e2language.com, is it's these daily live classes that you attend where you've got your peers, you've got your teacher, it's fun, it's interactive, somebody's explaining complex concepts to you, unpacking them for you. You learn them, and then you go ahead and apply them in your own time to the self-study material. So, so we've got lesson plans. I think there's we've got a 36-week duration course, 12, 8, 6, 4, and 2. You can sort of, it's up to the school. And then there's the self-study material for the students as well.
Yeah, and just to clarify, when you say lesson plans, you mean these are lessons that are already built and in the platform, ready for teachers to just kind of plug in and play.
Exactly. Yeah, we call them lesson plans, but ready-made lessons really is what they are. That's right.
Cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So something I guess I would wonder about is how are they able to conduct the lesson through this? How does that happen? And how do you see people kind of seamlessly moving into starting to integrate that? Would there be resistance? Do you think this is something that people could kind of easily take up? How would they go about doing that?
I think there's going to be training required. As I explained, we've sort of replicated everything that happens in a school, so nothing is foreign there. There's no sorts of functions that are sort of bizarre. It's all stuff that teachers do. They mark, they teach, they communicate, etc. But I think there's the platform is thorough. You know, it's not a small product. It's a comprehensive product. Like, it really is a digital school, and there's really nothing left out of that. So I think there's going to be some sort of, I wouldn't call it resistance, but there'll certainly be a hurdle to jump over to get used to teaching online through this platform. And that'll require a bit of hand-holding, I think.
How would people get assistance, or if you're an administrator that's thinking, actually, this is the right solution for us, I want to do this, how would they go about implementing it then?
So on the platform itself, there's actually helpful videos, how-to videos that give you a step-by-step walkthrough of you know, how an administrator can assign a teacher to certain classes, how a teacher can then assign and submit homework and set homework. And then as on an institutional level, the school can obviously contact Pearson for any kind of back-end support systems as well. So I think it's relatively self-explanatory once you're actually in the platform and using it, for both the teacher and the administrator and of course the student. So, you know, I don't envisage there being too much resistance and too steep of a learning curve for schools that want to adopt this and teachers that want to start teaching through the platform. So I think we made it as simple as we could possibly make it.
Yeah, I think once the sort of lights go on and people go, oh, I see how this really is effectively a digital language school, I kind of reckon it'll be hard to go back to, you know, a staff room with piles of marking on paper and stuff. I think, you know, COVID, no COVID, I think this platform can be used both fully online or sort of in a blended solution. And I tell you what, if I went back into a school, I'd want my students to be submitting their essays through this platform so I can mark them in, you know, under 2 minutes comprehensively rather than being handed that piece of paper.
Yeah, it's really well organized. I know that just as a result of the training session that I attended, where it was evident how easy it was to use just by how quickly we were moving through the assignments. It's very intuitive, and since working in digital education, I've used a lot of digital platforms, and I find it almost, you're not really doing a lot of scrambling. I found it was very easy to kind of pick up, see what I needed to do from both the teacher and the student perspective, which I think is really reassuring.
Terrific. Yeah, like one of the functions is the scheduling of live classes, which has been a headache for schools right now because they're using Google Calendars or Microsoft Outlook, and then they're using another third-party VoIP tool. This is all built in. So you basically just say, I want to teach Thursday, Friday, 3 p.m. for the next 10 weeks. Click, bang. It's scheduled in your calendar, the administrator's calendar, and the student's calendar. And the links are all there. And you know, you can effectively schedule your term of teaching in 5 minutes, I guess.
Yeah, that saves a lot of time. I think one of the things as well as a teacher and a former teacher, I'm just going back here, is the time it takes to prepare a lesson. The preparation time, the marking time, that's dead time. I mean, that amount of time is just wasted time. You're not getting paid for this additional time. Normally you get paid for the amount of time that you spend in the classroom. So this platform actually saves a lot of that time. And I think that's one of the key points for teachers to be aware of, that, you have ready-made lessons. When you go in, you plug in the platform, you can literally plug in and play. It's all there for your test preparation. And test preparation is is probably the hardest subject for a lot of language teachers to pick up and just go into a classroom and teach. General English, is fine. Business English, but test preparation is very, very specific. So it's actually really, really great to have E2L obviously create all of the content for this, and in such a way that any teacher, whether you're a beginning teacher or an advanced teacher, can just go through and use the platform seamlessly from end to end. So that's kind of one of the key things that people need to actually kind of understand about GOTP.
Yeah, and one thing about teaching online that you can't do in a classroom, I used to do this thing called the 6-step method. I don't know if you've heard of this teaching technique, where you decide what you're going to teach 6 steps before the classroom door.
Oh yeah, that one.
Try to do that on Zoom. That ends in a nightmare. The online teaching absolutely requires you to be well prepared and to have materials at your fingertips, or else it can turn into a very, very boring sort of state of affairs. So those teacher lesson plans are key. So Richelle, if a school is interested in, having a high quality digital platform, purpose built for test prep, how can they find out more about this?
Yeah, so this is something that we're really excited about. There's going to be a lot more information about GOTP over the next few weeks. So I would say around mid to early November, thereabouts, is when we're hoping that we can start sharing this with everyone and getting people actually into the platform using it. And it's going to be available in different regions around the world initially. So the Middle East, different parts of Asia. And we want people to be able to come to the website, get in touch with someone, have a demo, have a conversation. It really is meant to be kind of, an easy way to get in, start testing out the product. So I would say the short of that is coming up in November is when we're really excited to share this with the market. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation with you both. Jay, thank you so much for joining us from the evening. James, it's always really good to hear about what's coming with the product. And for everyone who tuned in, thank you very much for your time.
Cool. Thanks, Richelle.
Thanks,
James.
Thank you both.
Nice seeing you both.
Thanks for listening to E2Talks. Remember to check out e2language.com for IELTS courses and PTE courses and OET and TOEFL courses. And if you need help with your general English language learning, then check out e2school.com. Thanks.